So he's dropped his bind through the middle, and he's come through to punch me, to hit and to break my nose, basically.
Right.
In the heat of the moment, though, obviously the second row was probably a bit wet behind the ears, and it came to punching someone in a scrum. He's come through and he's punched Tony Woodcock in the face. So he's come straight through and punched him straight away. So the whole scrum's come up. Tony Woodcock's nose is across his face.
Yeah.
Blood's pumping everywhere and everyone's kicking off.
Hello amateurs, welcome to episode 11 of the Amateur Rugby Podcast, here to help soothe your Sunday morning hangover with some swashbuckling rugby chat about the grassroots of the game. I'm your host Tim, and today I'm in Gyrocaster, which is a mountain region in eastern Albania, and what a great name that is, Gyrocaster. Anyway, it's been a monumental week for rugby in this country, what with the World Cup final, and then probably more importantly, the announcement that Saracens have been fined a huge sum, upwards of £5 million, and docked 35 points by an independent panel. Saracens have immediately appealed, and this saga will undoubtedly run on for some time. For me, this is not a black and white scenario. I believe that Saracens didn't intentionally break the rules and were only trying to do the best for their players and staff. However, I also understand the outrage from other clubs and fans who feel like they have been cheated. My main concern, however, is the state and stability of our game. This incident just emphasises how young professionalism is in our sport, and my hope is, no matter what the outcome of the appeal, that this serves the game in a good way and we can all move forward positively. Last week's episode with David Sleman got some rave reviews, like this one from Jeff Griffiths. In general, this is a brilliant chat if you're into your rugby. Slem's journey from playing professionally into business is fascinating and incredibly honest, and there are a few good memories from playing days at Esher too. Thanks, Jeff. But my guest this week is Bristol Bears hooker Tom Lindsay. Tom and I first locked horns during a London 1 game between Sutton and Epsom and Old Colfeians. We later went on to become teammates at both Blackheath and Esher. This interview was recorded in August of 2019, and we took a lovely stroll down memory lane through Tom's career with some key learning points around player development, the role of the coach, and especially team culture. So, please give it up for Tom Lindsay. Tom Lindsay, welcome to the Amateur Rugby Podcast.
Oh mate, thank you for having me. Very excited.
Good man. Now listen, you're at Bristol Bears at the moment. How's pre-season going? This huge, long, elongated pre-season before the World Cup?
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's a great time to work on things that you maybe see as a weakness, or you want to get better at, or anything like that. It's a great for new players coming in. It's a great time to get to know everyone. Obviously, we've got 5 players away at the moment with Samoa and Tonga, but the team as a collective is gelling really well. Just got back from a trip in France where we had a pre-season little 4-day training day out there, and then played cast at the end of the week, which was fantastic. Made some great connections with each other. Culture got better. Some team challenges while we were out there. Some team performance while we were out there, just to make help the culture get better and better and closer as a team. Because at the end of the day, if you have a strong culture in a game where things aren't going well, the team that's got a tighter bond is probably the team that's going to get through at the end of the day. Yeah, for sure. So having a pre-season like this length, do you think, like, if you could, it's impossible, but if you could have one every year this length, do you think that would be beneficial? Oh, that's a really hard question.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, I know you stumped me there. I think I'm lucky to be. I've done. I don't know how many pre-season ones I've done this before in the last World Cup as well. Right. It does seem a bit longer, but I think as a collective rugby team, you can only go work so hard where you have to give the boys some time off. Yeah. We've been very lucky at Bristol to train for 3 weeks, have a week off, train for 3 weeks, have a week off, and then we'll get another half week off in a few weeks as well. So I think it's a great time. It's such a great chance to prepare. So we've got so much time to prepare, and also the Premiership have done well by in September. They filled out all the Prem Cup games. Yeah. So when it comes to the end of September, it's Premiership all the way through, obviously with some European games as well. So although the Premiership looks a bit different and we'll finish a couple of weeks later, there isn't a huge difference to be honest. Okay, cool. Right, that's now. Let's rewind if we can back to your earliest playing days. Where did you first pick up a ball, and what position were you playing, and all things like that? So I started playing rugby at Hendon Prep, which was my junior school, and I must have been about 9 years old.
Young.
I was young. I didn't really. It was part of the school's curriculum to play rugby. I played till I was 12, and then unfortunately I was a bit bigger when I was younger.
Right.
So I was probably about 14 stone at 13 years old, and my school at the time said we're not comfortable with you playing that because you're such a big lad. You're bull in a china shop. That's what you used to call me. Which obviously now it'd be obviously a bit different now. So I decided to tell my mum, and mum was like, "Look, we'll find you a local rugby club." And my local rugby club was Sarah Sandwiches. That was based at Bramley Road in Southgate, and I was in Finchley, which was nearby. So I started playing for them every weekend from the age of 13 to 18. So that's my earliest memory of playing rugby, to be honest.
Yeah. Am I correct in saying you used to play on the wing?
I was
right?
Yeah, I was a back three. So I played wing or 12 from the ages of like 14 to 18.
Right.
Almost got capped for England 18s.
Really?
But I got injured, unfortunately, playing for school, which I'd have loved to have had an under 18s jersey with 14 or 11 on the back.
Yeah.
I was lucky to go on tours. I went on tours to New Zealand with my club Saracens, and I played against quite a few players who actually now play in the Premiership. I played against Northampton players like that, PC brothers and people like that. So I'm very lucky to have done that. But yeah, I played wing till I was 18 and
amazing.
History, yeah.
But then the transition to the front row, was it directly to the front row, or was there some kind of transition through the back row and into the front row?
Oh, a bit like Monopoly. It was straight to jail. It was honestly. So when I was 18, I was in the academy at Wasps, and Craig Dowd was mentoring me, and he said, "Look, we've got an under 18s game." I was coming to the end. It was coming to the end of you finish school, 18 years old. Then your academy starts to go, "Look, we're either going to keep you on or we're not going to keep you on." It was that kind of crossroads. And they spoke to me and said, "You're a talented player, but you're not going to play on the wing in the Premiership." And
right.
I kind of swallowed my pride and thought, "No, you're probably right. I'm incredibly overweight, and I'm probably not the most dynamic. I was quite dynamic, but not in the way that it would get past on a Prem pitch."
Yeah.
And they said, "Look, we want to try that front row." So they said, how do you feel about going tight head?" And I said, "I'll give it a go." So I played tight head, played this game, went really well, and I signed the dotted line. That was over the moon.
So just I'm a natural.
Apparently, yeah. I had no idea what I was doing, but no, it was a great opportunity that Craig Dow gave me, and he helped me a lot the first few years.
So you say that was at Wasps. It's going to be a tough question to answer, but if you hadn't have been taken on by Wasps, where do you think your rugby playing might have gone? Do you think you would have always carried on playing, no matter what level, or do you think there was kind of a I want to make it or not play kind of situation?
It's funny because you get asked to play when you go and do club visits or junior visits, and kids always ask you, "Did you always want to be a rugby player?" I'll be honest, I never went, "Yeah, I'm a professional rugby player." I just went, I love playing rugby and enjoyed playing with my friends. I'd love the camaraderie and learning new skills every week with my coaches, and it was a case of just kind of fell into it. And if I hadn't played rugby professionally, I think, from the academy point of view,
yeah.
I think I'd have gone to university, because at the time it was the thing to do.
Yeah.
Go to uni and do whatever. I went to St Mary's, and yeah, I think I would have gone that way. God knows what I might have done from there. I wanted to do sports science. I was thinking about doing a personal training course, thinking about joining the army or the navy as a PT.
Right.
But I didn't even think about it at the time.
Yeah.
To be honest, and I've got a lot of reflections and not regrets, but I think I could have done some stuff better back then, like actually get my degree.
Right.
I would have loved to have done that properly, but I was naive and young, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, that's what being young is.
Exactly.
For a lot of people.
You've got to make mistakes, otherwise you're not going to learn.
Yeah, for sure. But then Wasps loaned you out to, was Sutton and Epsom the first loan place you went to?
The first on loan place, which I'd love to know if anyone else has got this connection, but my first on loan club was my home club, Finchley.
Really?
So Wasps put me on loan to Finchley Rugby Club. So after school,
yeah.
I'd finished school. I played at tight head prop. I got filled in most weeks.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people that are older than me and much better technique. The dark arts, I had no idea. I was wet behind the ears. I was still scoring lots of tries though, because I was still quite good in the open play, and open play wise in that division. I think it'd be like Hearts Middlesex 3 or 2.
Okay.
It was quite a low league, but I flourished. I enjoyed it so much and learnt so much. And then the next year, 18, 19, 20. The next year, I went to Sutton, Epsom, as you said.
Yeah.
That's so long ago now that I played against Jersey in London 1.
Yeah.
So my first game was Jersey away at the Stade Santander, they call it now. I played there, which was fantastic. Really enjoyed that. I was one of the youngest players there.
That's a good way to bond a team. Jersey away.
Jersey away, yeah. The initiations I had to do when I was at 18. I think I had to dress up as Ali G because I had really big headphones or something, and they decided to take the piss out of me. So I went on this trip. I was 18 years old. You had businessmen, you had lawyers, you had people from all walks of life who. That's the whole epitome of amateur rugby. Work hard during the week, train Tuesday, Thursday, and you've got an away trip to Jersey. Yeah. Obviously, I'll talk about Blackheath and Blackheath later on. The away trips there were very different and very, very enjoyable. But so we had a social there as well. I remember getting back. I was only 18, as I said. Getting boys back, and someone had opened the bar and just had sat behind the bar, and they were just drinking the red and white wine from the back of the bar. And just one of the boys.
What at your club?
No, at the hotel.
Oh, really?
So I think one of the boys, I don't know how he managed to do it, resealed a couple of bottles and just filled them up with water from the tap, and so no one knew. I don't know how they did the red wine. I'm not sure about that, but it was just an amazing trip, and I remember that season I learnt so much on and off the pitch.
Yeah, for sure. Now that was when I first became aware of you, and this often happens in lower league rugby when there's like you guys were playing really well that season, and I think you were leading the league pretty much all the way through. So as it came closer to us at Old Colfeians coming to play you at your place, like you hear from match reports and the same name seems to crop up time and time again. Who is this young kid who's running in tries from all over the place? So we knew all about you before we turned up to play that day. And correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think it might have been your first game at hooker.
That's probably right, yeah. I got moved to hooker because tight was a very hard position. You needed to be quite big to play tight, and I think, I never used to. Conditioning wasn't really my forte. I wasn't doing a lot of fitness. I'd do 2 or 3 big carries in a game or in a half, and then I'd be absolutely goose for the rest of it. Make a couple of tackles, and that'd be it. So my conditioner and S&C staff at Wasps collared me a little bit, sorted out actually give me some nutrition tips, and actually decided to let me know you need to be more professional, which I did start taking more seriously, and I started getting fitter and leaner, and I think hooker then became a better role. It was obviously technically it's a very hard position, but as you said, it was the first game of hooker, so I can't keep saying it's not straight. It's not my fault. It's not straight. I think I've been saying that for the last 10 years. So.
Yeah, I've got a couple of pretty clear memories from that day. One was you ran over our big number 8 and pretty much knocked him out. So that was one, and then shortly after that, you took one of the hardest balls off a scrum half that I think I've ever seen, but you happened to run into, and it was right under our sticks as well, but you happened to run into me and our next best tackler, and somehow, like, we both hit you as hard as we could, and we somehow kept you out, and I still don't know how, because I just stood up, like, turning around, like, he must have scored. Where's he gone? Oh, he didn't. Brilliant. That was amazing. but then within a couple of minutes, and I was playing back row those days. Right, yeah. I was having a couple of seasons rest out in the back row.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And later on that game, you had a ball out wide, and it was basically one-on-one with me. I don't think I got within 5 or 6 meters of you.
I'm sure it didn't go like that, but
it was pretty much like that.
I think memories and games like that. I'm sure you're being very kind there with how you remember things, but games like that is the epitome of amateur rugby. Like, you look back, and after the game, I'm sure everyone had a beer together.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. Obviously, the result doesn't always go your way, but I can't wait to have kids and let them do what they want to do. But as long as they have the memories from being on the pitch with whatever sport they want to do, it's just so important, I think, and it breeds such good relationships. And rugby is very fortunate to be doing that.
Yeah, for sure. It was it was a top game that day. I think you guys did win it, but it was a real good contest.
I think my parents have I think I've got a picture from that game. My parents have got on their mantelpiece at home. Yeah, I think so. My opposite number. No, I think one of your wingers was I think he might have just been a young 18-year-old kid who was just making up the numbers, and the pictures of one-on-one with me against him. I every time I see it, I'm like, Mum, you've got to take that down. It's so embarrassing.
Mate, you're going to need to get a little snapshot.
I've still got my shirt. I got presented my shirt, and
amazing.
I've got all my. Eventually, I know you can make a chair out of all your shirts, but
yeah.
I'm going to eventually put my shirt somewhere or do something with them.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed playing against Sutton and Epsom. They're a good club, and it sounds like you had a good experience there as well.
Great experience, yeah. fantastic club.
Yeah. So was it the following season then that you went to Blackheath?
Yeah, the next season I went to Blackheath. Another amazing club with an amazing history. One of the oldest clubs in, I think, the world, which was a great time. The middle of Blackheath, which is a beautiful place itself, and I was at Was as well, again being on loan, and we came across each other again. Yeah,
absolutely. I remember turning up to pre-season training, and I just rocked up there, kind of randomly, I guess, really. And I was like, I recognise that lad over there. I reckon came and had a word, and then we kind of spent a fair bit of time together over the next couple of years, really, because it seemed that whenever one of us got a start, the other one did, and one of us was on the bench, the other one was as well. But how was it? Because Blackheath had some really good front rowers at that time. How much did you learn off those guys and some of the other people in National One?
Well, Blackheath had some absolute National One legends and Championship legends, as well as when I joined there, Rob Webber, England, Sale, Bath, Wasp player. I learned a lot from him. And he taught me some amazing things. He was a coach, not coach, a mentor from the School of Hard Knocks, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Like, he showed me on the pitch. I felt it on the pitch, but he was such a good bloke off the pitch as well. And he was playing for Blackheath at the same time, so I was kind of coming in, and he was starting to poke his head up when it came to Was. He started playing 7. He was a fantastic ball player, great with the ball, good tackler as well. And he was starting to break through at Was, and as Webbs kind of left, I kind of was trying to fill his boots, if you know what I mean, and they were quite big boots to fill, if you know what I mean. So yeah, he was there, which was obviously big. And then you had Des Brett. He, when it came to scrummaging, was next level. Him, Simon Legg, and Alex Natera were the front row at Blackheath when I was there, and those three used to just rule the roost in that league. They had referees round their fingers.
Yeah, for years and years and years as well.
Years. I mean, I know Lexi's now in Australia. I'm not sure what Leggy's doing now. He was director of rugby at Blackheath at one point. But I know that Des Brett, I think he
plays for Southwold.
Yeah,
I feel somewhere up in.
I think he lives in North Walsham.
Yeah.
I think he does. He was still commuting to certain players. People were paying him a lot of money to prop up that right hand side of the scrum, and he was unbelievable. Great technique, and one of the nicest blokes you'd ever meet. Yeah. Honestly, you could have a beer with him or a glass of wine with him, and some of the stories he'd come out with would blow you away every time you play with him.
Yeah, funny man. Now, I used to love those days for a couple of reasons, but the number one was when we were on the bench together, we often used to get put on the pitch together. Now, those guys that we've just spoken about in the front rows, amazing scrummagers, and got some skills and stuff, but not necessarily the most dynamic around the field. You'd come on, and I'd come on as well, right? And then the game would kind of change, and because it was like the last half hour, there tended to be a bit of space around. And I used to have supporters come up to me and go, "Oh, it's brilliant when you and Tom come on, like the game changes. It's so dynamic when you guys come on." I'm like, mate, I'm just following him around, chasing him through gaps.
Oh, don't be! You're too kind, mate. No, obviously, the game. And the game, we used to every time we used to come on, the game was usually like it was wide open.
Yeah, spread.
Exactly, and the boys would do a great job. There'd always be gaps galore, and it was fantastic playing with you. I loved it, and it was. You always knew that I'd always turn around, even if it wasn't going well. You'd always have a smile on your face, and be geeing boys up and stuff like that. It was just, again, it personified club rugby at that kind of league. It was just boys enjoying themselves. You'd always have boys that lose their heads completely at each other, but I think. Slowly being faded out of the game, obviously you can be annoyed, but it was still good to play rugby with a smile on your face, no matter what's going on.
Yeah, well, mate, to be honest, I was kind of living my dream really, because that was the highest level I'd ever played at that point, and yeah, I was really happy to be there. There's no question about it.
I mean, for people that haven't, I know Blackheath have now moved and they're playing a different part of London, but for people that ever got down to Blackheath on a Saturday when the sun was out, the stand was for a National One club. It was quite a bit like Richmond is. It was a hub of rugby in London, and it was such a good day out. My family used to come every week. It was just such a great buzz running out into that field. Rectory Field was it was a bit of a not fortress for. We're not saying we always won games, but it was just such a great hub for rugby supporters. If you know what I mean, from whatever walk of life they came from.
And then off to Esher.
Yes, I went off to Esher, and again I bumped into you again. I started to get a bit suspicious there. I didn't know what was going on. I wasn't sure if we were just really good friends. I don't know, or my meal ticket or your meal ticket. I'm not sure what's going on there. But no, Esher was again for us, for me, both of us. It was the highest level of rugby we played because they were in the championship at the time.
Yeah.
Mike Schmidt, ex Rotherham and Canadian international, plenty of Premier experience, great coach. And the players that were there was players that was ex-pros, players who had played cap to 18s, 20s for different countries were there, and it was a great mix, and I really enjoyed it. It was a big step up for me. Physicality was a big step up for me as well, and yeah, it was an amazing place to train.
Yeah. So how important was it for you to essentially cut your teeth at all these levels moving upwards? You know, to give yourself the best possible opportunity for a career at the top end, because you've gone, you know, over a period of about 4 or 5 maybe seasons there, just gradually stepping up bit by bit. I personally think it's very important for all players, but how was it for you in the front row, especially being a new front row player?
I think that's really important. I think there's no bones about it. At school level, front row experience and second row and certain special positions, 10 is a bit different because there's a lot of open space, a lot of decision making you can do at school. But at school, front row, it's not nothing to do with the coaching. It's really hard. You haven't got time to coach front row at school. There's so much stuff to go on. There's only little bits and pieces you can do. So the best way to learn from my experience was, as I said, get filled in every now and again, get dominated by another player in and around the scrum, throwing different conditions, no towel, no grass. Like I remember playing at Paynton for Blackheath in the cup. There was, I don't know if you, I'm not sure if you
didn't play that game.
There was no grass on the pitch. It was just mud. I remember I was like, how am I supposed to throw this? And got there eventually, and I got man of the match for that game, and not because I played well, because our forwards coach, it was only one left he could recognise the number at the back and remember, just because we had so many line-outs.
Right.
So Bobby just said, Tom will give it to Tom. And I was like, well, it's games like that where you do like earn your stripes and you learn so much. And you've got to remember, every time you play for someone, there's going to be at least 2 other props, probably another hooker. You're learning from these people every single time who have got scenarios, and obviously they want that shirt as well. Hopefully they're not a position hater, and you can have a talk about after games, after training. And I learned so much. I think it is so important, especially for a line-out caller, a 7 as well, just because there's different situations you're going to have. Sometimes the referee's not going to give you it, sometimes they are. And also as a hooker, the relationship between you, your caller, and other jumpers is going to change at different levels. You're going to get back rows aren't tall, they're really short, or you're going to get a caller who just will absolutely call to himself the entire time because he is the best jumper in the team, no matter how badly he jumps or whatever. And I felt that I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't played for the different clubs I did. And that went on though after Esher. I ended up going to, Craig Dowd gave me the rhetorical question if I wanted to go to New Zealand or not. And I ended up going and playing for the second oldest club in the world, North Shore.
Right. Don't think I knew that.
No, so that was for Wayne Shelford, Buck Shelford, absolute Kiwi legend, played for Saracens. I think he famously had his ballsack cut. Put it back, ballsack cut, and then had it stitched and came back on at half time. Absolute header, absolute nutter of a bloke. Lovely man off the pitch, but he was just someone who oozed rugby knowledge and just, again, another salt of the earth kind of bloke. He was coaching the second team.
Right.
So I was over there, and obviously in New Zealand it works differently. You have your Prens, who are your first team. You have a second team, and then you have your under 75 kgs, and then you have your junior teams as well. So I went over there and trained with North Harbour. So I was 20. I think I'd been 21, maybe 22, I think.
Right.
And I learned loads of it. What was weird was they sent myself over with Charlie Beach, who ex Bath, ex Leeds, ex Wasps with me, and Nick Porter. Lucid, that's right. And Nick Porter, who ex Wasps, I played with him for years as well. He came over as tighthead, and we played as a front row for North Shore and got to the final that year. We lost, unfortunately, of the local cup, which was in Auckland. And we learned loads from there, and we helped coach there because they didn't. I'm not saying he's bad at scrummaging, but I think lower league scrummaging. I don't know why the English were quite good at it. Right. I don't know. I don't know. I couldn't tell you why, but as you go through the league, I know someone who's just got back from New Zealand, Ollie Dorr, a young loose head at Bristol that's doing really well. He went to New Zealand and he said they did English front row again and they did really well.
Right.
So we went out there and, as I said, we trained with North Harbour. Craig Dowd was over as well, and he influenced that, which was fantastic and gave me a huge opportunity. And what I love about New Zealand, the way their system goes, if you are, it doesn't matter who you are. So Tony Woodcock, absolute New Zealand legend, loose head. I think he's won the World Cup definitely once. I think he's got definitely have over 100 caps as well. No matter who you are, you always have your home club.
Right.
So it'd be like, for example, if we live in London, your home club, or our home club would be Blackheath, for example. So if you come back from injury, you need to go and play a game. In England, you come back from injury, you might play an A-League game or play an LV Cup game, a Prem Cup game, and then maybe a Prem game. Whereas in New Zealand, you need to play for your local club and then play for your province, which would be Auckland. I think this is how it's worked, which would be Auckland. Yeah. And then you play that season with Auckland in the Mitre 10. And then if you then get drafted into the Auckland Blues, or how it works, I think it works like that. If I'm wrong, I apologise.
Yeah, it's a kind of hierarchy.
Yeah, it's definitely got a hierarchy. Yeah, you have to do that. So one game we were playing against Tony Woodcock, an All Black legend. And I was like, that's Tony Woodcock. And we were going really well. Our front row was going really well against them, and obviously he was doing a good job against our tight head. But as a front rower, front five, or a whole 8, it's 1 in 8 as 1 at the end of the day. We have to scrummage as an 8. So if we're as an 8 going through him every time, Tony was getting really, really angry. Sorry, Mr. Woodcock was getting very angry. He was hating the fact we were dominating them.
I'm sure.
So I'm pretty sure, or I'm definitely sure because I saw it. We were in a scrum and he's obviously told his second row to slip his bind. So he's dropped his bind through the middle, and he's come through to punch me, to hit and to break my nose basically.
Right. In
the heat of the moment though, obviously the second row was probably a bit wet behind the ears and it came to punching someone in a scrum. He's come through and he's punched Tony Woodcock in the face. So he's come straight through and punched him straight away. So the whole scrum's come up. Tony Woodcock's nose is across his face. Yeah. Blood's pumping everywhere and everyone's kicking off. And we don't know what's going on. I've worked out what's going on because I've seen the fist fly past me and hit him. So it's just one of those things. And these are little things that happen in these kind of. Referee had no idea what's going on. So I played against Tony Woodcock in a game like that. Someone who's an unbelievably experienced player. He played amazing around the pitch. Like, who's going to see someone get punched? You're never going to be involved in a game where you see a World Cup winner like that get punched in the face. These little things wouldn't have happened if amateur rugby wasn't as influential and important to the game as it is now, I believe. Yeah,
for sure. And having these like stories and anecdotes, they live with you forever.
Exactly.
Right?
You could be talking about something with your mates or at a pub or whatever we're doing now, and you could be like, oh my God, I've just remembered this, and this. Yeah. There's so many different things. I can remember away trips now on the train back from wherever with Blackheath. It might have been Wharfedale, wherever. And I would always check my watch because I know that all the boys would have a load of beers. We'd have a whole carriage. Boys would be going mad. And obviously the game's gone well. Boys are letting loose a little bit. And I'm like, we're about an hour from home. I know that someone's going to start singing Father Abraham soon. And I need to, which would definitely be frowned upon nowadays. Not frowned upon, it's just not the way things are nowadays. Yeah. But I'm not going to go into what Father Abraham is. But I'd always try and meander back towards the back of the carriage, if you know what I mean, because I wasn't ready for that as a kid. Yeah, so there's loads of songs, drinking games, all that kind of stuff that comes with rugby. Obviously, nowadays it's just people are going to be more aware of what they're doing and everything. But it was kind of a right of way back then. Not saying it was a good or bad thing, but you do remember things like that. Yeah,
and it definitely, as you say, whether it's good or bad, it definitely fills your character out in lots of different ways.
Definitely, no, I completely agree. I know that universities now get in trouble for their kind of initiations and stuff like that, which at some clubs do go beyond that kind of that line in the sand, if you know what I mean. And it's times have changed, and it's one of those things that 10 years ago, boys just did it. It was just kind of the hierarchy of the senior players. It was just a rite of passage. You know what I mean? Things have changed now, and I think for the better, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, I mean, after that though, all of this, led you to have a great career with Wasps. Probably culminating in a couple of England Saxons caps?
Yeah, so obviously I was at Wasps from 18 to 27. I was very lucky to play for them played for them as many times as I did. I met some amazing people. When I first turned up, obviously we had Lawrence Vallier was our captain, Josh Lucy was in the right wing, Alex King, Wasp legend, was there, Rafael Ibanez, Tim Payne, Phil Vickery turned up with Simon Shaw, Paul Saki. I could go on. Joe Worsley, Tom Rees. These players were the rock stars of rugby in the Premiership at the time in London. There was my first year we won the Premiership, which was an unbelievable. And the memories I have. I remember after the game we all went to a pub in Richmond. I can't remember which pub we went to now, but I blagged all my uni friends in, and we just moved into uni halls. And I've got pictures on my laptop from when I was about 120 kgs. I was away, but all my friends there, and they're pictures that will go down in history. All the boys were absolutely steaming. The owner of Magnus was there because we used to be sponsored by Magnus, luckily, and it was just one of those things. It's amazing. The contrast of my career at Wasps was obviously I started there and we won the Premiership, and throughout the time there were highs and lows, and at one point the club almost folded, almost disappeared. I only found out the year after that we were about, I think it was either maybe days, weeks from completely disappearing as a club, because it wasn't a case of we'd got dropped down the leagues and become something else. The club would have vanished, and so luckily that didn't happen. And it worked out, and they obviously ended up relocating to Coventry, and things look better going forward. But the times, I learned a lot about myself over those years, and I think a lot of boys did. They kind of help you galvanise what you want out of your career, and what you need to do to make sure you keep achieving, and personally and as a team. And obviously I'd never regret what happened, but I know that if that hadn't happened, I probably wouldn't be the person I am today. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and then onwards to Gloucester for a few years, and then was it then directly to Bedford from there?
I went to Surrey's
briefly.
So I obviously went. I got capped for the Anglo-Saxons while I was at Wasps, which completely came out of the blue. Went to America with them, 2 weeks in Denver and a week in New York. That was an unbelievable time. So much happened. Came back to play for Wasps, and I left Wasps, and I think it was a case of I left Wasps, and it was kind of I just needed a new challenge. I think personally, I became a bit stagnant at Wasps. I wanted to be a better player. It wasn't a case that I didn't get on with coaching. I got on really well with everyone there. It was just I needed a new challenge, and Gloucester were happy to give me an opportunity. So I joined Gloucester in 2014 or 15. Had a 2-year contract with them. Played a year. Got injured, unfortunately, tore my hamstring at the end of that year. Was out all pre-season, and then when it came around to January, I got released. Unfortunately, it happens in rugby. It's one of those things due to poor performance, or it's just one of those things that doesn't happen. So I got
I guess it's a lot more transient nowadays. People revolve around a lot more than they would have done, maybe 10 or 15 years ago.
You can hold a lot of bitterness towards teams, and you can be pissed off about things that happened, and I've got no resentment towards whatever happens, whatever club. It happens, and it's just a learning curve. It didn't work out there. I then went to London Scottish for a couple of games. It was very hard on my wife because we were living in Sutton at the time. I had to, at the end of the day, as I said, Pat Lam famously says, your currency is your performance in rugby. At the end of the day, it is. If you're not, you can train like Tarzan, but if you play like Jane, you're not going to get a contract. So I needed to get some game time, some footage, some currency. So I went to London Scottish. They were very helpful. Peter Richards was there at the time. Another ex-Wasp was there to help me out, and I went there for 2 games. And Valentine's Day, I got a phone call from my agent, and they said Saracens are interested in signing you. So I said I'll call my agent back. Spoke to my missus, and we discussed it. It was a very hard decision for both of us, because I knew that I'd be away from her 2 or 3 times a week, driving to London and back. My parents live in London, luckily. That's where I'm from, obviously. So I was lucky to be able to stay at theirs during the week and then come back up. But it was very, very hard on my missus, and we learned a lot about each other in that time. And I firmed up to me that I'm with the most amazing woman in the world, because most people would have told you to piss off in that word.
Yeah.
But, so I went to Sarries, and obviously selfishly I was in the squad amongst some absolute legends, like Champions Cup winners. That year they won the Champions Cup in Edinburgh against Claremont, an absolute masterclass. They lost the semi-final that year, unfortunately, against Exeter away.
In the Premiership,
in the Premiership. Yeah. And it was just an amazing club to be at. The culture, the way the boys, the way the coaches and the playing staff, the off-field staff, and I see Bristol going the same way as the culture that Saracens is going.
What are some of the things that make that important or make it special? Because it does get spoken about quite a bit, or but after some of the detail, maybe.
I think what it is the bond, the want, the love. It's the love between players. I'm not talking. It's a weird thing to say about love. We talk about a lot of Bristol. Love is what you put others in, you put others before you, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
To go and help them out or whatever you can do. Always put them before you. And people there, I was brand new there. Everyone came up and said hello to me. Everyone wanted to talk to me. But the players that are current England players, Lions, coming and talking to me, asking about how the move was and everything like that. And some clubs you could be at, and you could the biggest thing for me was there was no hierarchy at lunch. At Sarries, once you're a first team player, that was it. Doesn't matter how old you were, how many caps you had. Everyone sat together, and staff as well. Because sometimes you get the DOR come and sit down, and then boys were like, "I'm not going to sit next to him." No, he'll sit next to the staff. It's just there is. I'm sure it's the same business. I'm sure. If your CEO walked in, you'd feel weird if you were an intern to go sit next to him and start chewing the fat at him about what he got up to the weekend.
Yeah,
I'm sure he doesn't want to know how many burgers and pints you had in Wetherspoons on the Friday night or whatever. But it's that kind of thing, and there was no barriers at all. Everyone was on the same page, and that shone through on the pitch as well. If you were fourth choice hooker and two hookers got injured, next two went straight in. Everyone knows the plays, and that's it. And it was just everyone had the responsibility to work hard on and off the pitch in whatever role you had. It was just that kind of vibe and culture. The minute you walked in it was energising, and the respect was there as well. So you felt like you were part of something immediately. I'd just come, essentially in 2 weeks I'd been involved with two other clubs, and I was there for 2 days, and immediately it was Scotland. It was different in the way because it was a championship part-time club, but it was immediately I felt that the culture and the direction at Saracens was vastly different to what I experienced at Gloucester.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. And I relish those memories I have were fantastic. I got to do a lot of stuff while I was there, learn a lot from a lot of amazing coaches. Alex Sanderson was fantastic. Mark McCall was very honest to me. He talked to me like a. Sometimes you can talk to coaches and you feel like they don't really not engaging with you, but from then on, everyone I spoke to was engaged and talking to me and wanted to know me as well. And my missus was the family, the kind of family vibe that everyone wants to know about each other. And if at the end of the day, if a coach wants to talk to my wife, I know he's immediately engaged in me as well, and what goes on outside of rugby. And it's that cold love and care and that kind of feeling at a club, which it was amazing.
Yeah, it does sound like it. It sounds like a great experience.
It was such an amazing experience, yeah.
But on to Bedford the following year. For a year in the Championship, what were the decisions that you made in terms of going there? Why was that a club that you relished playing for and fancied going to?
So when I was at Saracens, I played a couple of LV games, a couple of A-League games, and it was about 3 weeks period where there was no games. And I was happy to train. I spoke to some of the coaches and I said, look, I'd love to, if there's any games available, I'd love to play. And every year, I think every other year, Bedford play in the Mobs Memorial game against the Army. And they said, look, they need a hooker. I was like, I'd happily do that. Again, it's another game I need, some currency I need, and the video footage. And I spoke to my sister and said, look, there's a game here, I'm going to go and play. She was like, yeah, go for it. I hope you enjoy it. So I went there. It was one of those, if you've ever played county at like over under 20s or under 23s or first team, you know that you meet the team, you might do a walkthrough team run before the game and then you're just playing, which to some people will be an absolute nightmare. To others, it's just it can be amazing. If you're a winger, I think it's fantastic, or a flanker, it's fantastic. If you're a hooker that's no idea who's calling or no idea who is how to throw, and the mix. And the next thing is, if you've played at Bedford before, you know there's a 6 foot difference between each side of the pitch.
It's a huge slope.
Oh, it's a huge.
I've never played on a bigger slope.
No, honestly, if you're throwing and hitting the tail on each side, the difference is ridiculous. So I had that as well, which I really enjoyed and relished. So I played that game. I think I played 60 minutes. Really enjoyed it. I had a great time. Met Mike Rare all day at Mike Rare at Bedford. Had a great time. Next thing you know, Saracens were talking to me about maybe a future contract, but it was up in the air. I needed more. I needed to try and work out a future for my sisters and I. And Bedford came in with an offer, and we took it. It was fantastic. Really happy. So I had a flat in London, so we moved back to my flat in London, and I commuted to Bedford while my missus worked in London, which we thought would be easier. And Bedford was it's an unbelievable club. It reminded me of Saracens in so many different ways because of the culture that's bred in that team through the players and through Mike Rare. Any player that has either fallen out of love of rugby or is who's a decent, good player who's got good integrity, honesty, all the attributes you'd want in a rugby out of a rugby player. If you do get a chance to play for Bedford, I'd grab it with two hands. I don't think I'd play for any other team in the champ. Obviously, depending on different things, but yeah. It'd have to be something very, very big to make me think about going to another club, because Bedford was one of the most amazing rugby experiences in my life.
Great year at Bedford, but now 2 years at Bristol Bears.
Yes, so at the end of Bedford was fantastic. As I said, I was so lucky to be part of a team like that. Millie and I would love to stay, but we got an amazing opportunity to go to Bristol. We got married that summer, and I spoke to Pat. Pat was looking to try and get me there earlier because I think they had a bit of problems at injury at hooker, so I was supposed to. It was a very hard thing. I was going to say if Bedford released me, then I'd go. If they didn't release me, that was fine. I was happy. I didn't want to let anyone down, to be honest. So Millie and I got married that summer, and so Pat was like. He asked me to come in on a certain date, and I said, "Oh, Pat, I'll be honest, we're getting married and then going on honeymoon straight away." I said, would it be possible if I come in for the week that you start? So I'd come in early, do that week, so I get to meet all the boys, hit the ground running, and be able to learn as much as I can in that week, and then let me go on my wedding and my honeymoon. He was hugely supportive of that, and that immediately I knew what kind of man he was. Obviously, I'd met him previously before as well, when he wanted to speak to me originally. I went and met him for a conversation, and he put out his vision of where he wanted to see Bristol, the kind of players he wants there, and he asked me what I wanted out of my career and what I want to strive to be. So immediately there, I was engaged straight away. He wanted to know about me outside of rugby as well. He wants to get an idea of who you are as a character. If you haven't got any aspirations or an aim on what you want to do, and you're just kind of going like through the motions, he wants people that are going to be successful and drive, not just Bristol itself, but the players around you. Because one thing I've learned is you could have the best player in the team who on his own is unbelievable, but if he isn't part of the team, then he's going to make the team suffer, really. Great players make players around them better, and I feel that at the club in that first week I was learning things that I hadn't learned. I learned more in maybe that week than I had done in. Not saying I didn't learn much of Saracens and Bedford, but in the last 2 years I learned a lot more as I went through that first year at Bristol, and the players were so helpful. It was very similar to Saracens, but I can imagine a younger kind of model, because obviously Saracens, they revamped their model. I think it was 2014. Yeah. If you think about, if you were a Saracens supporter in 2011, 2012, which I was when I was at school, I'd go and watch them play at Vicarage Road, and they had some great players, but they weren't a great team. They weren't as successful as they are now. So it was that whole cultural change. When the boys went out to La Rochelle, we beat La Rochelle away in front of the home crowd, and La Rochelle had the names, the budget they have at the club, and that was one of those points of the season where you know culture comes through. I know I've banged on about culture, but that team cohesion... It's
important.
Oh, it's
so really important. Yeah.
Because it doesn't just shine through when you have massive wins. Worcester absolutely battered us at that point last season. And we needed that. I think every team will, at some point in that kind of success, I wouldn't say it's not a straight line success. There are peaks and troughs, ups and downs. It's not, as long as you're aiming in the direction you want to go and you have a vision, then you'll get there. But you're going to need to have bumps along the way.
Yeah, and have that resilience to come back.
Yeah, right? You need to have resilience, and you need to make mistakes to learn. As long as you, when you do make mistakes, you need to, as you said, have resilience and go, right, I made that mistake, and I will do what I can to fix it and make sure I try not to get it wrong. I don't get it wrong next time I do it. Obviously, it's easier said than done. There's different things that you need to make sure you've got in place, that you're able to do that and be more resilient. But I think that goes through every walk of life. Yeah. Because you are going to have knockbacks. You are going to have injuries. You're going to get sacked. I've been sacked. I'm sure everyone's been sacked at some point in your field of work. And it's how you can sit back, reflect, and be like, how can you go forward and get things right and make sure you don't make the same mistakes again. Don't get me wrong. If I got the same two-year contract every year from the same club and all the way through to retire, then would I look back on my career and go, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that? Or would I be like, oh, well, actually, I haven't obviously had a good career, but I don't think I'd have learned from as many mistakes that I have.
Right.
There's so many things I take from each period of my career, and I consider my career still being at Sutton, Epsom, being at Blackheath, being at Esher, playing for Finchley when I was 18, leaving class and now I'm on the pitch in an hour. That kind of, I've learned so much from that, and I've met so many amazing people that have helped and guide me and make mistakes. Like, for example, I wouldn't have met my missus if I hadn't played rugby. Yeah. So it's just, I think it's so important that people that do, especially amateur leagues, like, you work so hard in the week and it's a chance to go out there and spend your time with your mates, family come and watch you. So that's why I think, I'm going on a tangent here, I know I am. That's why I think if you are coaching lower league teams, or not even lower league, any team you coach where the boys are not semi-professional, professional getting paid, you can't turn up with a chip on your shoulder and shout, rant, rave at these boys. If boys aren't turning up or they're not really engaged, that is your responsibility as a coach. These boys it's probably costing them throughout the season to be there. You might be getting paid a little bit every session or whatever it is, but you've got to make that session engaging, fun, make them leave with a smile on their face. They've worked hard, they've probably worked the bollocks off, but as long as it's fun, more people will come back through word of mouth, and otherwise you're doing yourself a disservice. You want people to go, oh, that session was really good, really fun. It was really hard, but it was great. If you turn up and you can't be bothered, oh, they're not really working hard, I'm not going to work after them, then you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're also, I think, you're doing rugby a disservice because obviously I'm slightly biased about rugby, but rugby is such a special sport. It's one of the only it must be one of the only sports where every single person has got a direct involvement of how the team functions, if you know what I mean. Yeah, if someone doesn't do their job, at the end of the day, everyone on the pitch, everyone has to catch pass, everyone has to make tackles, everyone has to try and offload, everyone's got to do the same role, and it's not really sports where that happens, if you know what I mean. Yeah. So everyone has a responsibility to do their role, to do the role as well as they can and help each other out. And I don't think there's many sports like that. It's so important that everyone's part of that jigsaw piece, and that includes the coach, the back staff as well. Yeah.
So talking about coaching, Tom, we had a little chat before we started recording, and it sounds like you're well on your way down a coaching pathway. Is that something you when the day comes that you hang up the boots, is that something you want to take on full time and really get into?
So I've been lucky to coach men, women, at different ages, ranging from 6-year-olds up to 65-year-olds, walking touch, if you know what I mean. They do now with older people, which is fantastic. Right. So I think rugby. I think coaching's evolved. Players is really important. If you see someone's getting down, or they don't understand how some players need to be shouted at, some players need to be cuddled, some players need other things. But if you get to know your players, you get the best out of them. It's like knowing your staff in any job. If you know that the staff member reacts better when he's under the pump a little bit, or you got to give him some slack, then if you get to know them better, they're going to perform better from you. If you keep putting them under more and more and more, pressure obviously does create great things. Yeah. But I think it's channeling that pressure in the way that the person can react the best. obviously that person needs to get better through resilience and being self-aware themselves. But delivering that way of coaching, like that teaching style, you need to know your players better. And I feel that at Bristol at the moment, I think the coaches know their players very well and understand who learns from what. Obviously, every coach is going to get bits wrong, but at Bristol is a truth zone. If you feel like you weren't happy with something that's been said, you can go and speak to the coach and be like, I really didn't like the way you spoke to me. I think that's where coaching styles are changing. There is different types of coaching, but I think getting the information out of the player is the best way of doing it. Asking questions firstly, and then being able to understand the person before the rugby player and how they learn better. And I think that's the next stage, and it's definitely obvious for me at Bristol, and I saw it at Saracens as well. So I think that's the way to go forward, and that's how my philosophy is. I want to get the best out of my players through making them more confident as a person and then as a player as well, and understanding how to get the best out of themselves.
Yeah, amazing, mate. It sounds like you picked up a whole lot of stuff from a whole load of influences, and that's really. I had Mike Friday on a couple of weeks ago.
Legend.
A couple of weeks ago for the listeners, it was yesterday morning in real life, and that was something he kind of said. You know, as a coach, you'll have all kinds of things that you see work with different people in different places, and your job as a coach is to take all those influences, maybe come up with a couple of new things yourself, and then mould it into something that's authentically you. And it sounds to me like you're very much on the way to doing that.
It's funny because we used to call Mike Friday Geezer when he was at Blackheath. He was one of our coaches. Honestly, his coaching style reminds me of Sean. Sean was so passionate, get the boys going. Like, if you weren't from the London or that kind of area, understanding Geezer was quite hard because he had such a strong accent. You know? But his passion, you'd want to go outside. You'd go to hell and back with him. Just his passion was fantastic, and I'd be interested to see when he first started doing sevens with the USA. I'd love to know how their first reaction was in their first session, because when I first met him, I loved him straight away. It was fantastic. Yeah, same. You mentioned to me earlier as well, you're the RPA rep at Bristol. Just give me an idea of what that involves and why you decided to be that person for Bristol. So the RPA is the Rugby Players Association, and they've been around, I think, over 20 years. I think now. Damien Hopley, first ex-Wasp legend, he helped set it up, and it was basically a union to look after the rugby players and make sure that they're looked after. They do some amazing things now. The RPA, through Restarts, their charity, to look after players that got injured. And Ed Jackson, for example, Restart helped Ed Jackson when he broke his neck. I think Rob Horn at Northampton had a horrific injury with his shoulder, the nerve. He severed his nerve in his shoulder, and Restart helped. Now, every year we do a Restart rugby match where everyone wears Restart t-shirts, are red for Restart. So that's their charity. So every rugby club has a player development manager, and he looks after the club. And every rugby club then has a player representative. So they are there. They are the spearhead for their players, and the players look after them. Yeah. So as I've been part of the RPA for a very long time, as you are, remember, you sign up and they look after you. They help you out with whatever you need. And I put myself forward for 2 other players from Bristol, and the vote came in, and I got picked.
Congratulations!
Thank you very much. I was very, very, very lucky to have it. It was nice. It's always nice to be voted by the squad. I know that boys respect you. I hope anyway. Hopefully I didn't get my best mates to vote like 4 or 5 times each. But no, it's fantastic, and I am their representative. So anything they want to talk about, be that mental health, be that anything pastoral, advice, I'll do my best to give my best advice, put them in the right areas to contact, or any contacts I have that I can help out that are looking for work experience, stuff like that. Obviously our player manager helped as well. But it's a fantastic opportunity, and I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, good. I mean, again, it sounds like you've learned a lot through your career and had all these great experiences, and it's just you in some way trying to want to give that back to people and help people get through all the experiences, because it gets tough at times, right? And help people, on that pathway at the moment. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Rugby is such it's a huge circle. Everyone, you come across so many people, you meet so many people. Every game you play, you meet 15 other people, plus fans, families, and you can be that person and play rugby with a chip on your shoulder and think, I'm too good to go and talk to them, I'm too good to have a pint with them afterwards, or a coffee, or catch up, or just sit someone new every time you go into the lunch hall, something like that. Find out something, go out there and put yourself out there and learn new things about different people. And it comes round. And there are some rugby clubs that I know Pat did this. Pat, I think, spoke to 3 or 4 people about me before he even rang me.
Right.
So he almost not credit checked me.
Yeah, pre-vetted.
Pre-vetted me, basically. Yeah. He vetoed me to other people, and I was very, very lucky to have people say quite nice things about me. So it was really humbling to hear that, and I'm a firm believer of, not say karma, but you should treat people how you want to be treated. And you and I haven't been in contact for a few years, to be honest. But the minute we had a coffee today, there was no breaks, there was no silence or something like that. It was off the bat straight away. We're talking for almost 2 hours. Yeah. And I think rugby's and sport in general allows that and gives you the opportunity to do that. But you have that opportunity in your life to make sure you're giving something back, be it pastorally, be it whatever you want to do. Make sure you when you do finish playing, you've kind of left your boots or your shirt almost like in a better place, if you know what I mean, like off the field as well. So when someone does give you a call for advice, you're happy to do that rather than, I'm not going to call him, I don't fancy going for him for a coffee, like, it's not my cup of tea. You know what I mean? I just think it's so important, and you'll meet so many people and so many opportunities. Fantastic,
mate. That's a great way to finish before we head on to the rugby law section.
Oh, the rugby law section, yeah.
Rugby law section is next, which is my favourite part, to be honest.
Okay.
How would you rate yourself on the rugby laws?
Oh, God. I don't know, maybe a 7 out of 10.
Okay, well, we'll see. But with that in mind, Tom Lindsay, it's time to find out if you're a rugby law bore.
Sir, are you sure that's correct?
This is your question, and this is a very short question, actually. It's the shortest I think I've ever written. So, a player who is lying on the ground catches the ball and immediately gets to his feet. Is it play on or B, a penalty?
It's play on.
It's a penalty.
Oh.
Yeah, if you're on the ground, it doesn't matter. You've got to get to your feet before you can catch the ball, and sometimes it can be really unfortunate. Like the ball just ricochets, goes straight there.
Yeah,
it's a penalty.
Yeah, brilliant. That's a great start.
So, Tom, you're not a rugger law ball.
No, I'm not. Oh, that's brilliant.
On to some quickfire questions about stash.
Okay.
What is your favourite bit of stash that you've ever received?
Oh, it has to be when I got my England kit. Yeah. When I'm on Saxons, you get a big bag of kit, and I was going away as well, because I was going away to another country. You got a load of kit, and I'll never forget putting my kit on in front of the mirror. I put no shame. I put it all on. I was like, oh my god, I'm so happy. I was wearing the red rose. It's just a different level.
Yeah,
I was so happy.
Amazing, mate. That's awesome. And what is your favourite kit of all time? This can be any kit for any team, any era. Wide open.
I think the Barbarians kit is an unbelievable kit, because it looks completely different to everyone else, but it's what it stands for. It's the best players in the world coming together and playing just champagne offload rugby, and you know when you talk about a game and you see the Barbarians kit, rugby players aspire to be in the Barbarians, and spectators want to go and watch them play.
And current stash crush. So I'm looking for like a new kit that's just come out that you think looks amazing, or conversely, one that looks terrible. If there's one that you think is pretty horrific.
Some of the kit that I really like, I know that the South African Super Rugby teams, I'm not sure which team it has they started doing a Marvel kit.
Right.
So like Captain America kit and stuff like that, and actually using them. I think it was the Bulls, I'm not sure, but some of the South African kits are using like Thor kit, Captain America, actually using it as their shirts, which I think is really cool. Like,
yeah, it's a proper novelty.
Yeah, real novelty. Yeah, so that's really interesting. But no, I think that the Marvel kit's fantastic. It's a great idea.
Good stuff. Well, listen, mate, that's pretty much the end, I think. So it's been great to come here and catch up, and it's good to see you looking so well, and like just the amount of stuff you're getting into with the coaching and the RPA stuff, and of course the rest of your playing career to come. It's been great to catch up, and thank you for coming on the pod.
Oh mate, thank you so much for the opportunity, and it would be nice to listen to your pod rather than to look through your Instagram, because mate, I honestly, the FOMO of looking through your your Instagram the last 5 or 6 years has been absolutely breaking me.
Well, sorry about that. But listen, if people want to get hold of you to maybe talk about player welfare issues or anything to do with coaching or stuff like that, how might they get hold of you?
Instagram or Twitter, I'm TomLindsay02 or TomLindsay2 on Instagram. Please drop me a message, whatever I can. If any young players for advice or anything like that, I'm happy to help. And even adults for advice, I'm happy to help. I'm sure you can help me out some way as well.
Amazing, mate. I will link all that up in the show notes for you listeners, and I'll see you on the next pod. Tom, thanks one last time.
Cheers, Tim. Appreciate it, mate.
Thanks very much again to Tom. It was an absolute pleasure catching up. And as Tom mentioned during the pod, we sat and chatted for about 2 hours before hitting the record button, and sometime after we stopped recording too. It was great to hear him so incredibly animated, and I'm not sure how, but I think he's grown taller. Or maybe I'm shrinking in my old age. Who knows? If you've enjoyed this podcast, you could like, comment, share and subscribe. But what I'd really like is if you mention it to someone in person the next time you're down your local rugby club. I will be back with you next week when my guest will be Premiership Assistant Referee Phil Waters, who, by the way, disagreed with my answer to this week's rugby law ball question. It just goes to show that the laws are complex and always open to a certain amount of interpretation. I think it's almost inevitable in a game of organised chaos like ours. Now, I'm going to head back to my Airbnb here in Albania. The guys have got a nice meal on and this ridiculously cheap red wine isn't going to drink itself. So, until next week, get out and play.